Welcome back. Today's video is going to be about calculating heparin in milliliters per hours. Like I had mentioned before in my previous video, I apologize for the writing. I am on the app called Preview and I am writing on my notepad and I do not have a mouse. So I'm going to do the best that I can. Question number 4 reads, an order calls for 400 milligrams IV Tylenol every 6 hours. The supply is 1 gram per milliliter solution. Calculate the total milliliter dose you will draw up in a 1 milliliter syringe. Round to the 100th place. So the total milliliter per dose is what the question is asking for, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to write total milliliter per dose on the side. Just remember that this is always going to be our reference. So now we're going to look for the milliliter in the word problem, which is going to be 1 milliliter per gram, which is 1 gram. So as you notice that we cannot cross out the 400 milligrams because we have 1 gram, right? So we're going to have to convert that. So just always remember that 1 gram is equivalent to 1,000 milligrams. And we're going to have to write that out in order to cross out the 400 milligram. If you ever get mixed up, always remember that it's always order versus on hand. So as you can see, the 400 has to be on the top because it's an order, right? So now what we're going to do is 1 times 1 times 400 is going to equal 400 divided by 1,000 milligrams. And I'm just cross-checking again, see if everything cancels out. The units cancel out, excuse me, which they do. Now we're going to do 400 divided by 1,000. Which is going to give us a total of 0.4 milliliters. Because that's what our question is asking for. Question number 5 reads, a patient has a weight of 427 pounds. Convert the patient's weight to kilograms. Round to the 10th place. So I'm just circling exactly what the question is asking for. And as you could recall, kilograms is always going to be 2.2 pounds, right? Once again, I'm so sorry about the writing. This is the only way and the only form that I'm able to write and have my screen be recorded at the same time. So on the side, we're going to write kilograms to weight. One kilogram is always going to be equivalent to 2.2 pounds. Always. And we're going to times that by the 427 pounds because we want to cross out those unit values right there. Now, last but not least, what we're going to do is divide 427 by 2.2, which is going to give us a total of 194.09. And remember that the question is asking us to round to the 10th place. So remember 10th, 100th, because it's after the decimal point, so it's always going to end with a TH. So that's going to be the equivalent to 194.1, and that is our answer. Now another question is asking us, an order calls to administer 2 consecutive doses. Remember, 2 consecutive doses of 20 mEg KCl and 50 milliliters of NS by IVP over 1 hour. You have an IV set labeled to 10 drops per minute. Calculate the dosage rate in milliliters per hour. So right off the bat, we're going to put milliliters per hour. All right. This is our reference. And as you can recall, it was 50 milliliters. But here's the thing. Times 2, because it's 2 consecutive doses. So this is a tricky question. And 50 times 2 is going to equal 100 milliliters. Now, the problem is asking us to figure out in the hours, right? So we have 1 hour. So it's going to be 100 divided by 1. Which is going to equal 100 milliliters per hour. So everything else that you see here in the problem is just trying to trick you. So just always be mindful of problems like these. All right, guys, so number 9 says an order calls for 1,000 milliliters lactate ringers over 6 hours. Calculate the milliliters per hour, and you do not have a decimal pump. All right, so what we're going to do again, reference milliliters over hour. And how do you figure out milliliters over hour? Well, all you have to do is look at your problem, and you're going to find that there's a milliliter right there, which is 1,000 milliliters lactated ringers, right? And it's asking you for hours. And your hours are right there. So it's going to be over 6 hours. And do these match up? Yes, they do. So there's no conversion needed. So now I'm just rounding off to the nearest whole number, which is going to equal 167 milliliters per hour. Okay, so number 10 says an order calls for 35 milligrams. The supply is 60 milligrams over milliliters. Calculate the IV push dose. And in order for us to calculate this, it's asking us to calculate the total ml dose you will draw up in 1 milliliter syringe. So what we're going to do is we're going to put ml. Oops, I put LM. Okay, so we're going to put ml over our dose, right, guys? Now look in your word problem to find the ml. As you can see, it's going to be 60 mg/ml. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 1 ml over the 60 mg. Because as my teacher once said, it's going to be like a marriage. So they're going to be a couple. So they always stay together. Now we're going to put the order. Remember, order versus on hand. So order is always on the top, which is going to be 35 milligrams. And we could also double check this by crossing out the milligrams side by side. So 35 divided by 60 is going to be 0.58 milliliters. And that is your answer. Now on to the heparin questions. So number 11 states that an order calls for 25,000 units of heparin subcutaneous daily. The supply is 100,000 units over milliliters. Calculate the milliliter dose. Calculate the total milliliter dose you will drop in a 1 milliliter syringe. So right off the bat, we're going to say, okay, milliliter over the dose. Now we see milliliter right here in our word problem, so we're going to put 1 milliliter over the 100,000 units, because as I previously said, that's going to be like a couple, so they're going to have to stay together. And we're going to put units at the end right here times the order, which is going to be 25,000 units. Okay, so we cross that out, units and units, looking good. So now what we're going to do is 25,000 divided by 100,000, and that is going to give us our answer, which is going to be 0.25, which is going to be milliliters. Number 12 reads, an order calls for an IV infused 17,500 units heparin per hour. The supply is 25,000 units in 100 milliliters NS. Calculate the milliliter dose per hour. All right, so this one is going to be a little bit different. So they're asking us for the milliliter over hour, right? Because it's per hour. So immediately, right off the bat, you see milliliters right there as your reference, so you're going to look for the milliliters. So right here, we're going to have 100 milliliters. And that's going to be over 25,000 units. Because they're like a marriage couple, so once again, they're going to stay together. I think I said that about 1,000 times, so I apologize. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the 17,500 on the top, because remember, it's our order, right? And our formula is always order versus on hand. So I'm going to put 17,500 over that hour. I go back to my reference. Do I need any conversion? No, I do not, because it's already in hours. So what I'm going to do is times 100 by 17,500. And I'm going to divide that by 25,000. Which is going to be 70 milliliters per hour. If you take a look at number 13, it's going to be different. Here it says an order calls for an IV heparin 16 units kilogram per hour. The supply is 50,000 units in 500 milliliters. NS for a patient weighing 175 pounds. Calculate the dose rate in milliliters per hour. So I'm going to put milliliters per hour. I'm going to find my milliliters. And I'm going to put my 50,000 units. And that should have been 50,000, not 5,000. Okay, and what I'm going to do is going to put the 16 units kilograms per hour, because I want that to cross out. And now what I'm going to do is look at my values, and as I could see, there's a kilogram here, so I have to put 1 kilogram on the bottom times 1 kilogram on the top in order for me to cross out those unit values, right? And that way I could be able to convert the 175 pounds. But first I'm going to put 2.2 pounds underneath the kilogram because that's how much it equals. And now that I have my pounds, I am going to put 175 pounds on the opposite side. And now that's going to be an hour. Do I need any conversion? No, I do not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply all the top numbers, and then I'm going to divide by the bottom numbers. Which is going to be equivalent to 12.72, but I'm going to round that off to 13. Let's jump into another problem. So number 14 says an order calls for an IV heparin 75,000 units in 500 milliliters, infusing at 33 milliliters per hour. Calculate the unit per dose, right? So we're starting off with units over hours. So here it's going to be different. We're going to put the units over the 500 milliliters. And we're going to times that by 33 milliliters, since that crosses out with the 500 milliliters. And we're going to put that over hours. So now I'm just going to times 75,000 by 33, which is going to be all the top, and I'm going to divide the top by the bottom, which is going to be 4,950 units per hour. Number 15 states that an order calls for an IV heparin 18U/kg/hour, which is units kilograms per hour. The supply is 50,000 units in 1,000 milliliters. And S, for a patient weighing 176 pounds, calculate the milliliters per hour. So we're going to write milliliters per hour. And we're going to start with 1,000 milliliters over 50,000 units. Now we're going to times that by 18 units kilograms per hour. And we're going to write that on the top to cancel out the units. Now that we have our units canceled out, we have to worry about our kilograms. So we're going to put 1 kilogram on the bottom. And as we know, 1 kilogram is equivalent to 2.2 pounds. And in order to cross out the pounds, we're going to have to use 176 pounds and cross out the units. And that's going to be over 1 hour. So our total is going to be 28.8, and we're going to round that off to 29. And you could always go back to your problems and double check your work and see that everything crosses out, and also make sure that what the problem is asking you is what you're actually putting down on your worksheet. So moving on, number 16, they're asking us for units per hour. So I already started writing out the units over the hours, and I see here that it's 4,000 units in 500 milliliters. A way to remember is whatever your formula is what you're going to try to find. So if it's units per hours and I'm starting off with units, I'm going to try to find the units in my word problem and place that right above the 500 milliliters. Now I'm going to times that by 9.7 milliliters. Over the hour, minutes, hour, and hours, and I'm crossing out the milliliters. So now I times the 40,000 by 9.7, and I divide that by 500, which is going to be the total of 776 units per hour. So I hope that you guys find this video very interesting. Please let me know if this video helps, and thank you guys for watching.